Hello everyone, my name is Shikha Sharma, a student of BPT third year from Jamia Millia Islamia University, New Delhi. So the topic that I'm going to discuss is antenatal and postnatal care. For the juniors, this video is going to be very informative, and for the seniors and the professionals, I will be very grateful to you if you go through my video till the end and share a part of your knowledge with me. So let's proceed further. Now, so as we all know that pregnancy is a phase of excitement for the expecting couples and for the family and friends, of course. Also, this is the phase of preparation of one's body because there are several changes that is going to happen now. Several bodily changes that is going to take place for about 9 months ahead, and also after the delivery, it will take some time for the mother to get back to the back normal to her shape, so she needs to be mentally prepared for that as well. So now we know it that what are the several changes that is going to happen. These changes are going to be physiological changes, and also they are going to be anatomical changes. And these physiological and anatomical changes are not only going to happen to the genital organs, but also to the systems of the body. So first we have to discuss about the what all are the physiological changes that is going to happen. So it could be change in the respiratory system, change in urinary system, change in liver or gallbladder, or change in nervous system. So like that. Now, first, as I have said, there could be changes in respiratory system. So what all changes we can see in respiratory system? First is the breathing becomes diaphragmatic. Second, there could be increase in the transverse diameter of chest and it expands to up to 2 centimeter. It could increase the chest circumference by 5 to 7 centimeters. And of course, the hyperventilation occurs. And this happens due to increase in the progesterone, and that eventually acts at the respiratory center. That is why we see hyperventilation of the mother. Then now, if I talk about the urinary system, that I have said that there are physiological changes in the urinary system as well. So first change would be dilation of the ureter and the renal pelvis. And the second would be the kidney enlarges by 1 centimeter. Then if we talk about the changes in the liver and gallbladder, functional areas are depressed except the LFT serum levels. Others are compromised. Then the fourth is going to be nervous system. When I'm talking about the nervous system, first thing that I want to discuss is about the psychological changes. Nausea, sleeplessness, all these changes occurs during pregnancy. And the second is the postpartum depressions or the psychosis. Now, it is very important for us to know that these changes, like what all changes are going to happen, so we can assure them that the changes are normal whenever they have doubt about what's happening to their body. So we need to tell them. We are healthcare professionals, and this is our work to tell them, to make them understand that all these things, all these changes that is happening to their body, all these things happens in pregnancy, and gradually they will come back to their normal life. Okay, so there are going to be some hormonal changes, posture and alignment changes, muscle, ligament, tissue changes, as well as respiratory and energy level changes. Now, when I'm talking about the physiological changes and anatomical changes, what big difference it makes is the difference in maternal weight. A mother increase her body weight, and the expected increase is 4 kg in first 20 weeks, and after 20 weeks she also, like in the next 20 weeks of the pregnancy, she she weighs around more 8.5 kgs. So in total there is the increase in 12.5 kgs of her approximately weight. Or we can also calculate it as that in the first trimester she gains 1 kg of weight, whereas in the next two subsequent trimesters she gains 5 kgs of weight in each trimester. Then we have the uterus size. So in normal, the size of the uterus is around weighs around 40 to 30 to 40 grams of uterus, and also the length of the uterus is around 5.7.5 centimeters in length. Whereas in a pregnant lady, it grows up to 35 centimeter in length and weighs around 900 grams. Then there are some changes that is going to happen in the uterus muscles also, because uterus is where the fetus gets stick and then it starts growing. So uterus needs to be a very rigid supportive structure for the fetus to grow. That is why there are changes in the size of the uterus changes, size of the, yes, of course, the size of the uterus as well, but the size of the muscle fibers of the uterus, the number of muscle fibers and the arrangement within the muscle fibers. So these are changes, all these changes will happen. This becomes uterus a very good supportive system for the fetus to grow. Then we have uterus positions. The uterus position is a position is anteverted up to the 8th week, but after that it becomes erect. Then we are going to talk about the pelvic floor muscles. There are going to be several changes in pelvic floor muscles as well, because we know that pelvic floor muscles is anti-gravity, remains anti-gravity in position, and when the fetus develops, due to the weight of the uterus, the weight of the fetus, the pelvic floor drops approximately 2.5 centimeters. So there are several effects of the childbirth on the pelvis floor also. There could be two. We can divide into two basically. One is the neurological and the other is the muscular impairment. Now, when we're talking about the neurological compromise, so when we're talking about neurological compromise, we talk majorly about the compression or the stretch of the pudendal nerve. Now, this pudendal nerve is the main nerve of the perineum. We all know that, and it also, when it gets stretched or it gets compressed, this contribute to incontinence, prolapse, and chronic pain conditions. So this stretching and compression of the pudendal nerve happens during the labor, as the baby's head travels around through the birth canal. Then this pudendal nerve may get injured. Second one is the muscular impairment. Muscular impairment is when the adductor muscles of the or the pelvic muscles of the mother is not very relaxed. She is contracting the muscles, contracting her pelvis, contracting her buttocks again and again, and the child, after periods of time when the child is coming out, so there will be some amount of muscles of the pelvic floor that will get torn due to this or may get incised. So that is the muscular impairment I was talking about. Now there are some categorized changes I would like to discuss about. First is the physiological changes, that is the cardiac output increases as the stroke volume and the heart rate of the mother also increases. So, and then we have the hyperventilation, that was because of the respiratory system changes. And then the breathing becomes diaphragmatic, the resting oxygen requirements increases, joint laxity and lumbar lordosis increases. We all know that during pregnancy, lumbar lordosis is going to increase. Now, what could be a reason due to increase in the lumbar lordosis? Of course, we all think the one major reason for the increase in lumbar lordosis is because of the baby bump. But why baby bump? Because when the bump of the this mother bump, when it starts growing, there is excessive a stretch of the abdominal muscle. So when the abdominal muscle stretches to its extent, it is not able to contract anymore, and also the pelvis is not able to posteriorly tilt. So that is why pelvis tilts anteriorly, and there is increase in the lumbar lordosis. So I hope that clears the increase in lumbar lordosis. Then we have uterus changes that we have already discussed. There are several, the change in the muscular muscle of the uterus, size, shape, weight of the uterus, and also the position of uterus also changes. Then we have soft tissue edema occurs. And then we have some of the anatomical changes. For example, uterus expansion in the length, expansion in the weight, expansion in the size, center of gravity anterior shifts anteriorly, heart pushes upward and outwards. There are ligament laxities increases with pubic symphysis widening of up to 10 mm. And then also the joint stress increases. Now joint stress increases, although because of the size of the body, because of the size of the fetus and mother, of course, But also, if the mother doesn't perform strengthening exercises of the lower limb, she is going to have a very weak muscles of the lower limb, and because of that there will be double or thrice the weight, thrice of the body weight is going to be on the joint, that is going to increase the stress over the joint. And this may also lead to very different, even degenerative changes in her life, maybe later on, maybe not during pregnancy, but that is going to affect her lifestyle then, life later on then. Okay, then we have uterine pressure on the inferior vena cava causes relative obstruction of venous return. Now we all know that inferior vena cava is the main supply, so we don't want that to compress. All right, so even because uterus expands in size, so it compresses or it pressurizes the inferior vena cava. So we will suggest the mother to not to lie supine, but to lie in the side line, or maybe in the 45-degree sideline position, because then when you lie, when a mother is going with a bump is going to lie in supine position, the baby is going to pressurize this artery, and we don't want any compression on this main artery. Then the changes that is going to happen in the first trimesters, they are categorized into trimesters. Before we have discussed about gross changes, and now these changes are divided into the trimesters. First is the cessation of the menstrual cycle. Second is the enlargement of the breast tissues. Third is the morning sickness and fatigue. Next would be frequency of menstruation increases, then relative increase in weight, and by the end of first trimester, the fetus is 6 to 7 centimeters long and weighs 20 grams. Then, in the second trimester, pregnancy becomes visible. Mother begins to feel movement and 20th week, and there is morning stiffness. Here in the second semester, the morning stiffness subsides. By the end of the second trimester, the fetus is 19 to 23 centimeters in length and weighs approximately 600 grams. Now, when we talk about the third trimesters, we should know that in third trimester, the mother is going to feel various contractions. All right, and also there are some common complaints during this trimester, and these are frequent urination, low back, leg edema, fatigue, round ligament pain, shortness of breath, and constipation. So by the time of birth, the baby will be 33 to 39 centimeter longs and will weigh approximately 3400 grams, which is 3.5 kgs. So, I would like to discuss about this frequent urination, why this happens mostly in the third trimester. Because look at this picture. Now, in the ninth trimester, because in the 9 month, which is the end of the trimester, the fetus is fully grown. So, just anterior inferior to the uterus, we have the bladder. So when the uterus grows in size and it moves towards, anteriorly, obliquely in anterior direction, it put pressure over the gallbladder. That is why this is the reason for this frequent urination in the third trimester, basically. Okay, so let's start with the stages of labor. First stage of the labor that I am going to discuss is the first stage. We all know that this first stage is going to last for up to 12 hours, or maybe it can be varies in according to the mother. In some it could be for the 10 hours, and for some it could be for the 12 hours. So in this first phase, we have to tell the patient, because we know that now in the first stage of this labor, there are going to be numerous parabolas of contraction that the mother is going to feel. So we have to make sure that the mother doesn't hyperventilate, or she doesn't stop breathing, during this period, because then it is going to be very difficult for the gynae to make her deliver normally. Then C-section is required otherwise. So in the first stage, there is dilation of the cervix. It begins with the regular contractions and is complete when the cervix is fully dilated. Then when we talk about the second stage, this stage is the stage where the mother has to work, where she has to apply pressure, to bring the child out in this world. So the second stage is that of expulsion of the fetus, and it begins when the cervix is fully dilated and is complete when the baby is completely born. Okay, so when we talk about the third stage, in this stage the child has been born already in the second stage. In this stage there is separation and expulsion of the placenta and membrane occurs, and this stage lasts for 5 to 15 minutes. Okay, then what are the types of deliveries we have? Let's discuss about the four types of deliveries. One is the episiotomy. This is just the normal delivery, but during the during the delivery there is a incision is that is made through the perineum tissue just to enlarge the outlet. Okay, second is the forceps delivery. In this we use the forceps for the extraction of the fetus, okay, to complete the delivery by her own effort. Third is the vacuum extraction. Here the vacuum cup is attached to the scalp of the fetus that provides suction, that provides vacuum and extract the fetus out. And then fourth is the C-section. So in the LSCS, a transverse section is made, and this heals more rapidly than any other kind of incision. And the classical section is always performed through the midline incision. Then we are going to talk about the antenatal care. No, before antenatal care, we are going to discuss about the antenatal assessments. Okay, so look at what assessment is very basic and important for everyone, maybe for the gynae and also for the healthcare professional like physiotherapist. It is very important. All right, so all just go through this PPT. Take your time and look what important aspects are required, even for us to note down in the demographic data: the name, age, address, and month of the pregnancy. We should know that the mother is in which trimester, because according to that, our plan, our basic protocol changes. Secondly, the chief complaints. If the mother is coming with a complaint, or maybe if she's coming just for the sessions for the normal delivery. The third is okay, then we have the family medical history, present medical history, and ultrasound reports. And for ultrasound reports, the date has to be mentioned on which the ultrasound has been done. Then we are going to talk about the antenatal care. Now comes our part. Then what we have to do, we start with the physical activity. Okay, so let's just think what actually is a physical activity. Physical activity is to improve and to maintain the physical fitness as well as the health. And when I say health, this means physical health and also the mental health in general. Then the secondly, it's regular, if the mother performs regular physical activity, so this is very good for her physical and for her psychological health. And this physical activity, now what all activities that can be included? So grossly, if we talk about, it could be in everyday activities if the person is a household lady, or maybe if she is working, but after like after maybe 5 or 6 months, if she is at home, then she should not stop performing activities. This is the time when she can engage herself into household activities, gardening, walking to work, all of that. The second gross category would be active recreational activities. All right. So this includes dancing, walking, jogging. This should be very, very important when it comes to dancing. There are some enthusiastic mothers who dance like anything. So the dancing should be performed, but not in a very high intensity or not be very vigorous dancing. All right. Then we have benefits. There are some benefits of physical activities. Then first, if we talk about the healthy weight during and after the pregnancy, the second is they sleep better and less tired. So if the mother performs physical activity during her pregnancy period, there will be less chances of her to develop anxiety or depressions, and she would be less tired. The third would be reduce the chances of developing varicose veins. And the fourth would be reduce the likeliness of swelling of the feet, anxiety or depression that I have already discussed. And then we have reduced the chances and severity of anxiety and depression. Then we have helps to control the glucose level. It is very important for some of the mothers to, basically for all the mothers to keep a check on her glucose levels. But there are some mothers with family history of diabetes, so if she doesn't keep a check on her glucose levels, and if her body weight is increasing very unexpectedly, so she can lend into she can land into gestational diabetes. So and also this help prevent the back pain and also reduce the risk of high blood pressure during the pregnancy and reduce the time it takes to recover after delivery. Then there are some of the exercises that the that women can do, a pregnant woman can perform. The six majorly gross kinds of activity that can be done is first is the Kegels, second is the aerobic training, third is the dynamic strength, fourth is the stretching, fifth is yoga, and the last is the relaxation. Now, first, if I talk about the Kegels exercise, this is the exercise of pelvic floor muscle which we ask patient to perform before the delivery and also after the delivery. Before the delivery, it is performed in a little different way, whereas after the delivery, it is performed in a different way. After the delivery, just after the delivery, we do not ask patient to take a hold, after contraction of the pelvic floor muscle. Whereas before the delivery, we ask the patient to do this exercise about 30 reps in a go and hold it for 5 to 6 seconds and then release. you know so this is the difference for performing the Kegels. And then we have aerobic training, dynamic strength, stretching. Very important is the stretching of adductor muscles, to facilitate the opening of the birth canal for the child to have a normal delivery. Then we have yoga and relaxation. This can help to relieve the mental stress of the patient. So throughout the pregnancy, the mother should aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity every week. Now, every mother differs, every person, every patient differ. So the duration of the activity can be changed according to the person. And also, as we target 45 minutes or 30 minutes or 20 minutes exercise per day according to the person. So if I say 20 minutes of exercise, doesn't mean that every mother has to perform 20 minutes exercise. If she doesn't feel like doing it, it's okay. We can't put pressure on her to perform. So we have to modify things according to the mother only. Then there are mental stress. So mental stress come into check, in first trimester. So we should counsel the patient, because we should know that what is the mental state of the patient, what is she expecting from her pregnancy, or what her family, if her family is stressing over her, some of these factors. And then one very major instruction that we should give to the mothers of mental stress is she should not be watching the videos of deliveries or the videos of pregnancy, because every pregnancy, every delivery is different. So we should just ask her to do her best, so to be positive, and do not see all these YouTube videos, because then this is going to be very mentally stressful for her, yeah, to deal with the pregnancy. Then this is our work to teach her some of the things. For example, there is a rule that I say, there is a rule of 3 P's. 1 P stands for power, second is for the passage, and third is for the postural correction. First, if I talk about power, the power we generate in the patient, okay, by exercising, by physical activity, the strength of the muscles. All right, this is the power. The second is the passage. The passage is basically is the stretching of the adductor muscles to facilitate the delivery of the baby, so that the passage, the outlet, of the birth canal opens widely, for the easy normal delivery of the baby. Then third is the postural correction. This is also very important. So these P's has to be taken care of. All right. Then we have talk test. Talk test is a very important test that the mother should perform, after exercising, after 10 months 10 minutes to 15 minutes of exercising. She should talk to herself, because if she is hyperventilating, it is very important for her to lower down the pace a little. All right, so she shouldn't be hyperventilating during the exercise. So this is very important. Talk test should be recommended for every mother. Now, these are some incorrect right upright posture and some correct upright posture. If we talk about the head, if we talk about the shoulders and the chest, we know that this, this comes into a very slouched position, and also the breathe, because of this, breathing becomes difficult for the mother. And then we have abs, butts, and the uterus. Then we have knees, we have feet. All these things, the posture changes. And for the correct posture, the head should be, uplifted, shoulders and chest should be drawn, backwards, and ribs should be lifted, and abs, butts and uterus, we have knees, and then we have feet. Okay, so there are some points about the physical activity which will be discussed during the pregnancy, that what is to be done and what not to be done. First is take care of overheat during exercise. We are not supposed to hyperventilate. Also, we are not supposed to overheat. Second, during the pregnancy, it is very important to drink plenty of water during the exercise, before the exercise, after the exercise, and all of the day, and during the all day. Second is they avoid exercising in hot water. Third, don't let blood sugar levels drop too low, because I've already discussed that you should always keep a check on the blood levels, blood glucose levels. It is very important for everyone, not only for the mothers with the diabetes, or with the, if she is if she is with any family history of diabetes. Not only for that, but for every mother, she should keep a check on her blood glucose level. Then we have avoid cycling, vigorous work, sit-ups, running and jogging, exercising lying on the stomach. And also we have to avoid swimming or exercising in water with temperature above 32 degrees Celsius. Now to be discussed is that for me, that I would not like any mother with a baby bump, especially, to to swim, because doesn't because not only because that the patient, uh, there is no risk, of course, with the swimming, because the mother knows how to swim. But also in the pregnancy, we have to be safe. We always want to be on the safe side for the mother and also for the baby. So to prevent any, even the chance injuries, we should not recommend her to swim. Then, Kegels exercise, very important, I have already discussed. So there are some rules for the Kegels exercises. First is the mother should always perform Kegels exercises after using the washroom. All right, so the bladder should be empty, first of all. Second, the position is very important. That she should be sitting in a L sitting with the knees flexed. And also she should check for the muscle recruitment. Now, if we should teach her that how she can recognize what muscle is getting contracted. If she feels that her abdominals are getting contracted, so this means that she's contracting the wrong muscle. So she should know first how to difference between that, which muscle is getting contracted, and second, how to recruit the vaginal muscles into contraction. Okay, now we have what Kegel exercise, it actually prevents. So before pregnancy, it prevents the urine leakage during and after the pregnancy. Also after the pregnancy, if we perform Kegel's exercises, this also prevents the cases of hernias, the cases of prolapse, all of these things. The Kegels is very important, and this is highly recommended and should and have and must be performed. Okay, then we have last month is, okay, so for the last month, the ninth month, now we know that now the delivery is going to happen. Okay, now the baby is full grown, and now is expecting, the mother is expecting, the delivery could be at any moment. So here we can allow the patient to squat. Even the deep squats can be done. We can allow the patient to perform duck walking, but no mopping. Even if the family, even if the people around suggest you to mop in the last month, you should not mop in the last month, because we don't know what injury it might cause to the fetus. What there are several anatomical injuries also that happen to the fetus, so we do not want that. But to alternative of this, we can perform duck walk and squats. Then there are some breathing exercises. So there is one very major goal, for the breathing exercises, which is that maximum alveoli expansion. Very important, because we know that the fetus grows upwards, so it compresses even the diaphragm, and the respiratory system gets hampered. So the aim is to maximize the alveoli expansion. Second aim is to shorten the second stage of labor. Then we have types. What all types of breathing exercises that can be performed? First is the deep breathing. Second is the diaphragmatic breathing, and the third is the segmental breathing. Now, there is one technique called Lamaze technique. Very important technique, must be performed. This reduces the second stage of labor, for the mothers who were supposed to or who were expected to deliver the baby in 10 hours, but they end up uh, getting done with their second stage of labor in within 4 hours itself. So it is very important, a very very efficient technique. So this is to be performed in the last trimester. So for the 3 months, the mother should perform this exercise. So we have to teach the patient that there is going to be numerous parabolas of the contractions. For example, the contraction just started, so for the 3 seconds she has to inhale, and then for the 5 seconds she had to exhale in slow intensity. And also, this is we need to tell her that there are going to be numerous parabolas of contractions, and between each contraction there is going to be, between each parabola, there is going to be a transition phase. Now this transition phase can vary from 1 minute up to 5 minutes, according to the patient, according to the person. So in this phase, the patient do not have to hyperventilate or stop breathing. So this is very important for her to practice in her last months, because then only she'll be able to perform in the labor room. Otherwise, this is not going to happen, that if we teach her once a time and she doesn't practice and she's going to perform in a labor room. No, this will not happen. So it is very important to for her to practice every day for at least for 3 months daily. All right. And as the parabola, the contraction increases, up to the peak, the intensity of her inhalation and exhalation has to be increased accordingly with the contraction. Now there is a pattern called hee hee hoo hoo pattern. This is a very important this which is done in inhalation. We say he, and during the exhalation we say who. All right. So this is a very important. This can be taught to the patient, of course. And for all these exercises, we can include even the father, because both are going to be parent. So if we include even the father during all these breathing exercises, it will be going to be, this is going to be very fun for both of them to practice. Okay, then we have J pattern breathing. This is done during the second stage of labor, whereas the Lamaze technique that we already discussed about is to be done in the first stage during the contractions. Now, in the second stage, we know that now this is the time where the mother is going to push the baby. Now she has to do her work. So this is called J pattern breathing, where she has to contract her upper abs and relax her lower abs and buttocks. Try to perform this. Whosoever is watching this video, try to perform this, because then only you'll be able to teach the patient. Otherwise, this seems easy, but is not so easy to perform for everyone. Secondly, very important in this is mothers, what she does during pushing the baby is she squeezes her buttocks. So what happens, it doesn't let the baby come out, so the crowning of the baby takes more time, so we don't want that. All right. So we should let her practice, before delivery, during her last trimester only, she should perform this. She should be practiced with all these things. All right. Then we have, what are the reasons to stop exercising during pregnancy? First is listen to your body. Very important. Every person is different. She must listen to her body. If she feels like doing work, even if she feels like going to work, even in her 8th month of pregnancy, she can go for this. But if she feels like not going for work, even in her 3rd or 4th month, she should not go for work. All right. So very important to listen to your body, because then only you will be able to figure out what to do and what not to do. Secondly, any signs of physical distress, which can include the vaginal bleeding, dyspnea prior to exercise, dizziness, headache or chest pain, calf pain or swelling, preterm labor, decreased fetal movement, amniotic fluid leaks, or abdominal, pelvic or back pain, etc. So all these are the signs that that can terminate the physical activities during pregnancies. Then if we talk about the postnatal care, we start with the Kegels only. Even after the 11 to 12 hours of normal delivery, We can start with the Kegels exercises, and the dosage for this that I've already discussed is 10 reps, in one go. This can be performed twice or thrice a day without a hold, but without a hold. And we can also perform squats. Now, when I talk about squats, we ask the mother, to perform squats even before the delivery. So squats, we know it that this is a movement that we have performed very well as a children also. It is a fantastic position for the labor, and it's the movement that we should use to pick up things up the floor. But because adults do less squatting, so women is not prepared for using this position as in labor. So it has been shown to increase the pelvic diameter, which means there is more space in the pelvis, and more space is good when we want to facilitate the normal birth. But when we talk about squats after the delivery, so even in normal deliveries, we don't recommend doing squats in the next day. No, the squats has to be performed after 3 weeks in normal delivery and after 6 weeks post C-section. And they should always, the mother should always perform gradually and with support. Even if she sits on the toilet seat, she should be sitting with the support. Then day one post surgery, if the mother has gone undergone uh, the C-section, so we have to teach her some of the mobility things, to prevent the bed sores. So turnings is the first thing that we teach. The change position after every hours, we know it why, to prevent the bed sores, of course. The patient should be turned 45 degrees, and one or two pillows to be kept behind her back, and we have to instruct her or command her to press the pillows, not the bed, of course. Okay, so she has to perform this after 2 hours, every 2 hours, or at least change her position. If she can't perform it herself, she should change her position. Now, what are the instructions that post C-section delivery? First is to keep hands on the sutures while walking. Even while walking, she has to keep her hands on the sutures. There should be no vigorous walking. Second is when if she, like, if now she has to go to her home, like post discharge thing now, and she lives in a place where there's no lift and she has to climb by stairs. So the instruction should be that she has to climb on the stairs one by one, and she should not be carrying the child on her hands. Third, the hand should always be on the sutures and she should not be wearing any heels. Then, while feeding, this is very important. While feeding, she should not be sitting with her legs down. She should always be folding her legs, because this prevents any leg edema, the chances of leg edema. So while feeding also, there should be pillow under the child. If her child is on her lap, she should keep the pillow under the child, because then this prevents the bending. And when you bend, there is a huge amount of pressure on your suture. So you don't want that. That is why we should prevent bending. So the pillow has to be under the child even while feeding in sitting position. Then if the mother is lying feeding, so pillow should be kept behind her back. All right, place hands over the sutures while sitting on the toilet seats, of course. And after 3 months only, we can perform abdominal strengthening, for example crunches and resisted exercises. Now if we talk now we have said that after 3 months only we can perform the abdominal strengthening. So until then, is the mother not going to perform any abs exercises? Of course she is going to. We teach her tummy tucks. Okay, here we have, because no crunches before 3 months, we know it. So we teach her tummy tucks. What she has to do is inhale, which is a shorter duration, of course, and with tummy out, and exhale, which is of longer duration, with tummy in. All right, so we have to teach her this. This helps in strengthening the abdominals, because we don't want the resistive exercises up to 3 months. All right, so we go for tummy tucks. Then post normal delivery, we start from the beginning. We start squats from the beginning. We start the upper extremity strengthening, which we starts abdominal, except the crunches and resisted SLR. That is going to, the resisted exercise we are going to do afterwards. And also we start with the back strengthening in the next day. Also we start with the breathing exercise, everything, but we have to avoid the resisted strengthening exercises of the abs. Now, what is the physical activity after the baby is born? Now we have discussed what all physical activities, how to be how and why and what to be done. Now let's see what benefits it provides to the mother. This helps lose weight and get back into shape. This improves the mood. This mother is less likely to develop anxiety and postnatal depression, and this thing also helped her in her during her pregnancy. So after even after delivery, this physical activity is going to help her to get relief of her mental stress or not to develop any anxiety or postnatal depression. This helps to strengthen her pelvic floor muscles and reduce the chances to develop any stress incontinence, and to exercise to be gradually increased to build up to the pre-pregnancy levels, and it is not recommended to start until after postnatal check at 6 to 8 weeks. This protocol of 6 to 8 weeks we have already discussed in every physical activity that we have performed, even after the post section or even after the normal delivery. So this we have already taken into consideration, the 6 to 8 weeks of rest period for the mother, because there are various ligaments that are lax even now, so we should give some time for the body, to accommodate or to get well or to heal well. So that is all about the topic. Thank you everyone to be with me till the end. And I have mentioned my email ID. It would be very great if you all, whosoever has watched this video, give your feedbacks to me. I'll be very grateful to everybody. Thank you so much.